Paul, I got it running because you got it up. Okay, ready.
All right, guys, I know we're off schedule a little bit. We're still going to keep the same time frames for the coaches, and not that our association business is not important, but we'll speed through that. Maybe not give guys like Jeff Bowles enough time to celebrate when he gets his 5,000th win award or however many games he's won. I do have a updated bio here on Coach Niederbruge. Again, he coaches at Carrollville Academy High School in Delaware. He's entering his 27th season. He's won 3 state championships. Yesterday I said 2. I want to make sure to get that third one in. Won 3 state championships as recent as last year and qualified for the state tournament all but 3 years of being a head coach. He played in the New York Mets and the Boston Red Sox minor league organization. He's a clinician, a trusted authority in hitting, pitching, and mental game coaching. He has spoken at the ABCA and the BCA conferences and spoken in 2 different countries on baseball. He's the founder of Be Your Best Academy Baseball. He's the director of training for Delaware Warriors developmental travel teams. He's also a former teacher and school administrator for 20 years. Please welcome Coach Niederbruge.
Well, thank you for being here this morning. I'm honored and humbled to be in front of you. I've heard Trace before, and what a fantastic presenter he is, great information, and I'm going to be talking a lot about energy, and I guess that's what I'm talking about when I talk about energy, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Why should you be listening to me? Who am I? What do I do? Well, John was kind enough to share some things about me, but I also wanted to share with you that I am the son of an immigrant. My parents were come from Holland. I was born in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I came over to the United States when I was 7 years old. And I remember vividly going out in the playground and seeing kids play with a round ball and a stick in their hands. And I went back to my father and said, "What are these guys doing?" He had no clue. Well, that's how it all started for me. That was my first encounter with baseball, and since that time, I've been very passionate. It has become my profession, and I am a student of the game, and I constantly learn. So that's a little bit about my background. I think I can bring to you a perspective and great information that I think you can use right away. So my goal today is simply to communicate, inspire you with quality information that you can make applicable right away. But before we do so, I'm going to be presenting some things to you as if I was going to present to my players. And so I believe in the different learning modalities, in terms of visuals, doing, hearing, and all those kinds of things. I also think that you learn best by teaching. So I have my kids teach a particular skill and have them repeat. But before we move on, I would like all of you to do this little drill with me. I'd like all of you to close your eyes, and then I'd like you to point where you think north is. So at this time, close your eyes, all of you please, and point up to where you think north is. Do so now, please. Keep your arms up, open your eyes, and look around. Okay, well, as you can see, you can put your arms down. We have different directions. And I'd like to say to you that I want to give you some, what I consider to be essentials. There are as many coaches as there are theories. I think everybody, for the most part, has the right mind, the right goals, but there's different theories. Things always change. It's usually the latest and the greatest. Some guy's a rotational hitter, and he wins the home run title, or he's got the highest batting average. That's the way we go. or the guy's a linear hitter and he hits really well, that's the way we go. So I'm not here to profess that there's only one way. I'm going to give you things that have worked for me, been time tested. I'm 55 years old. I've been coaching for a long time, as many of you have perhaps. And, you know, we draw on our experiences. By the way, True North is right over there. So if you point in that direction, you were correct. Okay, next slide, please. Points of emphasis. In developing the ultimate batter, you've got to cover your coaching philosophy because, let's face it, yes, I get excited about the technical aspects of hitting, but we're dealing with human beings. We're dealing with high school kids. By the way, how many of you coach your own sons? Okay. My son, I've been coaching my sons. I have 6 children of my own, and my son's now a freshman in Delaware, so I'm not going to be coaching him. And it's a unique and special situation for those of you that are fathers. And for those of you that are not, you're not biased, so that's a good thing too. Sometimes it's difficult to do that. But your coaching philosophy, I think, has to be solid. You have to have a sound foundation because it has such a great impact on the individual hitter. I also want to make sure that in developing the ultimate batter, we define it. You know, what is it? What are his objectives? And we're going to go into that in great detail. And then also, what prevents them from becoming the ultimate batter? And then lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about what are the drills that we use in our program that have been successful. Delaware is a small state. We've done relatively well for a number of years, but it pales in comparison to some of the other programs that I hear about, championships and all those things. So all I can tell you is that I've worked very, very hard as a student of the game to try and figure out how we can best present this material to our kids so they can have an enriching experience and peak performances. And then some final thoughts and additional key points and blind spots. I do believe, as you may notice, I like to have interaction. I don't want to pretend to be lecturing down to you. There's no difference between you and I, other than I'm elevated a little bit because I've got the stage right now. I've been where you are, and I just absolutely have fallen in love with clinics. I learn from everyone that I experience, that I encounter with. So that's where we go. Next slide, please. Another quick drill, fun drill to get us really going here. I'd like you to stare at the 4 dots on the picture, please. I'd like you to do that for 45 seconds. Give me 45 seconds of staring at that dot and begin right now. You can blink, but stare at that dot for 45 seconds. And again, I do this with the kids, and they seem to enjoy it. Perhaps you'll get an aha moment as well. A few more seconds. Okay, what I'd like you to do is go over to that wall, look at the wall, blink, and you should see an image, and that image will probably start going down. Do you see the image? It should be an image of Jesus. I get this all the time. And the point that I want to make here, it's a little dim. You should do it on a shiny surface, but the point being here that in hitting, it has its advantages from a hitting perspective as well as a pitching perspective because there's that latent recall. And so when we know that, we talk about, you know, the pitcher getting back in there and making sure that he pitches and the hitter has a mental recall image that you have and looking at this picture that you can use to your advantage, and I'll get into that a little bit more in detail. The mind is very powerful, as we all know. Next slide, please. Here we go to coaching philosophies. Okay, I mentioned to you that I don't pretend to be the answer. I don't know everything. Be very, very careful of Mr. Know-It-All. Mr. Know-It-All, can you trust him? It's the upper slide. Well, it's written all over his face. If you tilt your head slightly to the right, you might get the answer. Tilt your head slightly to the right. Do you see anything there? You should see the word liar. L-I-A-R. if you tilt your head? Again, we don't know all the answers, but I think that anyone that comes before you and says, this is the way to do it, I'd be very careful. We as coaches are absolutely role models. We must be in control. I don't know if you recall, but Mr. Pinella, Coach Pinella there, he's a very fiery coach, and I can vividly remember when he just grabs a bag and just starts throwing and starts going off, much like Earl Weaver in the day. And imagine if we as high school coaches did that, what type of control would we have over our kids? If we as coaches lose control, I think the game's over. We can't expect to have a disciplined team. So I think we have to be very careful on our approach and how we conduct ourselves. And I don't care what field you're in or what skill you're trying to perform, you've got to have self-control before you can control your ball, before you can control your performance. The picture on the far bottom left, find the now and magical moments happen. We were the youngest team, I think, in the state's history to win a state championship. We were not that good going into the season, but I knew our kids were going to progress because we have what I believe to be a pretty sound fundamental program and plan, and we try to execute. So I knew we were going to get better. But it really comes down to some of the things I'm going to be addressing in terms of the coaching philosophy and our system. But finding the now is key. I do believe in subjective and objective measurements. Now, I don't want to get real technical with you guys because, some people like it, some people don't. All I can tell you is that I think you need both. I think baseball is it's an art form and it's very subjective. But I think you have to have some objective measurements, such as ball exit speed. There's got to be measurements. Hitting consistency. How often can you hit a ball to a certain target? That should tell you a little bit about something. How many times do we do drill work where we hit into the net and we're maybe 3, 4, 5 feet away? Every ball seems like you're crushing it, that you're hitting the ball well. It's a blind spot. What I would suggest is taking it back. Just like if you believe in long toss. Distance exposes issues that you have. So doing tee work, throwing, I like to keep going back until you've mastered a certain distance and then continue with that. So subjective and objective measurements, I think, are important. I also believe very strongly that you have to accentuate the potential in a young man as well as being positive. They say that the positive ratio is 5 to 1. I don't know. I don't count. But I certainly feel that I've established a trust level, and I am positive. I think you can be critical without being negative. Negativity in the game, I think, is not necessary, is not needed. So try to maintain positivity, even though it's difficult in moments of frustration. We all have been there, done that. Can be critical without being negative. I do also believe that leadership is horizontal, is plural. I think we have players. I value the difference in players. We all have strong personality type players, and that's a good thing. They tend to motivate kids and other teammates. And then you have your soft-spoken, your weaker personalities, but they're mentally tough inside. And they have a calming effect on your team. You have every kind of kid. So use them, use their strengths. Because I don't think it's all about the fiery guy, the guy that's strong personality. Getting back to my philosophy, I call it double tape. And I have a lot of memory aids, tape, T-T-A-A-P-P-E, double tape. And the first T stands for trust. If you don't establish a trust base, if you don't have trust in your teammates, if you don't have trust in yourself, if you don't have trust in the coach, if you don't have trust in the system, guess what? You're not going to maximize, optimize what you have. It's that simple. So trust is huge in anything that you do. If you break that trust, then only time will heal. How many times do we communicate with our kids? There's some people, some coaches can get away with saying some things that you'd say, wow, how can he get away with saying things or doing things with his players like he does? Well, I think it comes down to trust. If you have their best interest at heart, the kids can absorb a lot. There's certain times where a guy can look, the coach can look at a player wrong and he gets offended. There's no trust. He gets annoyed. He gets, he doesn't like it a little bit. So I think when you have trust, people are more forgiving. You've got to put in your deposits, your mental deposits. Teammanship. It's a word I made up, but basically it means playing together. You achieve much more when you play together. I like to use the analogy of the open hand. If this is a team and I have 5 fingers, they're exposed. They're very open to being broken. But when I bring that team together and close it up, I become a powerful fist. That's what teammanship's all about. When they take pride in their performance without you having to motivate. I do believe that first you create the environment, then the environment creates you. It's not my job to necessarily motivate them. I think they do that with each other. I think if you put them in an environment, you have a great, nice, clean batting cage, you have a beautiful field, you have all those things that I think are important. You create that environment. Authenticity. No hidden agendas, no mind games, authenticity. Be for real, be genuine, be sincere, be caring. Accountability. Wow. Be responsible for your actions, your thoughts. Accountability, I think, is critical. I hate that disease, the dreaded disease of me. I hate that, the dreaded disease of excuse-itis, the transfer of blame. It's in our society. The Republicans, it's the Democrats, it's nobody's fault. It's always a transfer of blame. No, it's about accountability. When a guy can tell you, Coach, I can't hit the curveball, I work on it hard, my bad. But when he comes back and says, oh, that umpire blew it, I can't see, the sun was in my eyes, that's just zero tolerance. That's unacceptable material. So accountability and responsibility for your results, for your actions and your thoughts are critical. Presence. That's a hard skill to teach. But I think that is what made magical moments. Finding the now, being present. I always thought that multitasking was a good thing. I now say that was not a good thing. I don't think it's good to do a lot of things at one time, because what happens is I never developed and learned the skill of going deep into one subject matter. Once you understand that, then you can move on. But we get bombarded with interruptions and distractions, with our gadgets, electronic gadgets, our text messaging, our emails, play-by, all that PlayStation, all that stuff. And we're going from one thing to another. So I think we should try to avoid that. I think presence, be here now, is so, so important. We have a saying that I came up with that I've heard at a marketing motivational seminar out in California. The guy's name is Brendan Bouchard. And he had a nice big auditorium filled with people. The energy was amazing. And he said some things. I've never seen an energized room like that. And he said 3 things that I use and implement in my program, and it changed the culture and the way we did things. And that is 3 words. I used to say, I'm here, and I expected my players to respond in unison back, I'm here. Because when I felt like I was talking to someone and someone wasn't quite paying attention, I'd say, I'm here. And all of a sudden, everybody would chime in, and I got their focus. I got their concentration. I got them looking at me and understanding and listening. We also talked about game hugs. I'm not a huggy kind of guy. I like to think of myself as pretty intense and staying within a game and trying to figure things out, playing the inner game, the game within the game. But I loved it. My players, when I get frustrated or they looked at me, they'd come over and say, Coach, you need a game hug. And they give me a hug, and I felt pretty good about that. And when somebody strikes out or somebody commits an error, when they come back into the dugout, they give each other a hug. In practice, when we've worked hard, we all give each other a game hug. I think we have to be vulnerable. I think we have to be human beings. We can never forget that. We're not training robots. What's the other comment that I make? I'm here. Game changer. You make a great play. We yell out, game changer, and a great play could be backing up a particular throw. getting the bunt down in a critical moment, making the great pitch in a crucial situation. Game changer. So those three things, as simple and as stupid and as silly as that may sound, it really, really got us to the here and now and made us become a team where magical things happen. When you find the now, magical things appear. That was our slogan going into the year. Energy. I can't tell you how much energy you need. You can't just go through the motion. You had a prime example of some of the speakers with tremendous energy. I think that's critical in what you do. You also have to enjoy what you do. You got to have fun. We can't forget that element. It's that equilateral triangle that Tim Galway uses. And he basically says that, yes, one of the points on a triangle is you got to want to win, you got to compete. I believe in cooperation. The other point in the triangle is learning. You got to learn from your opponents, learn from each other, constantly look for ways to improve. And then you've got to have that enjoyment element. You got to have fun. And it's an equilateral triangle that I myself had to buy into. Because sometimes we get a whacked out approach, winning at all costs. And I think when that equilateral triangle is out of balance, you have some issues. So, that's important. The 4C approach, or I call it the 4C model, to fixing all flaws. Everything that we do, we evaluate using this model. What is the concern? What is the issue? What is the problem? What is the cause? The person must want to change, the athlete must want to change so that it can be corrected. That change has to occur. It's like the definition of insanity, expecting the same results, or expecting different results but doing the same thing. Let's take an example. Let's say I strike out a lot. Well, that's my issue. Well, then you got to figure out what's the cause. It could be fear, could be embarrassment, but when it's all said and done, I think it's always going to come down to timing. Timing is king. Timing rules the at-bat. It could be pulling off the ball, which I think is caused by timing. It could be excessive head movement. There's a number of reasons, but you got to figure out what the cause is. And you got to do that with dialogue. Yes, you can observe some things, but you really don't know mentally what's going on. Then they've got to be subjective. They've got to be subject to change. They've got to accept that. They've got to admit what they're doing, and then you attack it. Yes, but theory. Yes, I've got this issue, but I'm going to really work hard at it. I always ask the question, is it possible? If the answer to that question is yes, then I say how. And together, we figure it out. And then the corrections might be, let's take this example of striking out. Maybe it's not getting the stride foot down in time. Maybe it's limiting the head movement. It could be a variety of reasons, but that's the model that we use that seems to be very, very effective. Next slide. Okay, defining the ultimate high school batter. Plain and simple, they're run producers. They are absolutely run producers. They get on base and they knock people in. They understand the situation. Get on, get them over, get them in. And you can see there I have swinging, hitting, batting. It may be semantics for some, but I believe that you have to learn how to swing in order to hit. And then, what the difference between swing, hitting, and batting? Well, swing is just swinging the bat. Hitting is trying to hit the ball hard, but batting is understanding how to do that in different scenarios with the different responsibilities that you have. So that's why I use batter a lot. Some people think of it as interchangeable, but I think of it the same way as pitching. I think you have to learn how to throw before you pitch. If you want to ruin pitchers, make them pitch too soon. So those are key elements and philosophical staples for us. Great pitch. You must get a great pitch and put on a great swing with great timing in the right situation, in a great situation. That's the objective, I think, of every hitter. Every player that you have can hit. Some hit a little bit better, but everybody knows how to swing a bat, and everybody in the world here, your players have made contact. You just got to make it better. You got to optimize it. So that's the reason I use that terminology and phraseology. The three players here. You recognize Hall of Famers here. You have the guy in the middle, Henry Aaron. Ultimate hitter, ultimate batter. And I believe that when you evaluate a hitter, I use video a lot. How many of you, just out of curiosity, use video in your practices or your games? Do you video your athletes? If you don't, I strongly suggest that you might want to consider that. You see a lot of things that the naked eye doesn't see. You'd be really surprised. When I can slow things down, it's amazing. I'm going to show some video clips of video of our practices and our scrimmages and a particular tool that I created that I think you're going to fall in love with. But if you get an opportunity to videotape your players in practice, do so, and in the games. But this, for me, is critical. At toe touch, this is what great hitters look like. I don't care how they start. I say that very carefully. I see a lot of hitters today, they get in their stance, they have that open stance. And I ask the kids, why do you have that open stance? They got it from somewhere, and they all tell me, well, I can see the ball better. I don't buy that. Some guys say it's a rhythm thing. Okay, I can buy that. I let it go until I see problems. And what typically happens in my program is that there's more movable parts, more areas for problems to occur. And what happens is if they're in an open stance, they don't get to the closed position. They cheat and their hips leak. And if their hips leak and the hips go too early, the path of the bat follows the hips and you become steep and stiff type of hitter. And you have this much hitting room. Where the great hitters are really long out front. They stay on that hitting line much longer. So the stance is really one of comfort. Make sure that you have good plate coverage from a technical standpoint. You must have support. Support, movement, support. All that means is that it has to be synchronized. Smooth, continuous, controlled, accelerated movements is what I look for. I want to create less mechanical and more animal in the athlete. Allow the beast, the athletic beast, to come out from within. We are trying to clone hitters and make them so mechanical and technical. There's room for, obviously, having an efficient swing. Efficiency. What's the definition of efficiency? It's maximum accumulated, accelerated force in the correct direction in the least amount of time. That's what efficiency is. So in your swing, you've got to have an efficient swing. Because if it is about timing, which I'm going to get into in great detail, then that's one way we can cut down the time that we see the ball and actually hit the ball. So that's important. The setup. You have your guys that step, stop, and swing. I'm not a proponent of that. If it works for you, wonderful. But if you buy into my definition, hitting is converting momentum into rotational forces, then anytime you stop, you've killed momentum. So, I believe in converting momentum into rotational forces. The setup is huge. Getting into that launch position. I do like the arms back. I don't like it in here. It's not wrong. I prefer this action here. People are afraid to teach this because they're afraid that they're going to cast and not be able to stay inside the ball. I don't agree with that. I think timing is what causes some problems in pulling off and going out. Yes, your first movement can't be out because then you fillet the pitch. Your first movement's got to go forward. But you can get that stretch reflex going. You can get that little stretch in here, the stretch in your ankles, your ribs, and back in here. And every great hitter that I know, that I've evaluated, looked at, gets to this position with timing. That's critical. Mistimed and misaligned at toe touch. At toe touch, that's what we look for when we stop and see what the hitter looks like. When heel plants, that's when rotation stuff starts to kick in. You do both. There's directional movement and there's rotational components to it. Can you consciously think the hips lead the hands and all that kind of stuff? I don't believe you can. And then there's flexibility issues and there's strength issues. Here's my 11-year-old son at the time. There's not too much difference in terms of mechanics between Bonds and my son Brock, who happens to play at Delaware now as a freshman. And, we look at joint integrity, matching lead elbow, and lead knee. Both of them are firm at impact. Firm at impact. The thighs usually straight up and down. Back knee drives down and forward. The hips rotate, allowing the back foot to go up. It's not squish the bug and being just a spinner hitter. waist is level. The shoulder plane matches the bat plane, is parallel. At the toe touch position, touching the imaginary halo. Top hand slightly closest to the pitcher. So those are a few things from a technical standpoint. Swing finish. There seems to be some discussion about swing finish. I like to swing finish high. Do I let go of the hands? Do I stay through the ball? I have some opinions about that. For me, how you finish is a function of where the pitch location is. The lower the pitch, the higher you finish. The higher the pitch, the flatter you finish. I will say this. We want to try and get 7 degrees, 10 degrees, anywhere between 10 and 20 degrees trajectory off the bat. In order to do that, which means a line drive, we have to point our fingers in the same direction. A lot of times we're like this. Point the fingers in the same direction and just try to come down and stay on that line as long as you can. Stay on that line as long as you can versus the steep and stiff kind of hitter. Sweet spot of bat to sweet spot of ball produces sweet music. You've got to find the sweet spot. There's an interesting drill. To save time, I won't call someone up here, but if you do this with your kids, it's pretty cool. I tell the kids, place your bat in your palm, and the objective here is to balance the bat. So I'm going to focus my eyes on my hands or on the knob of the bat. Don't cheat. When you feel like you have it in balance, let go of this top hand. It's pretty difficult. I say, okay, let's do the same thing. This time, I want you to do the exact same thing. The objective is to place the bat in your hands and maintain balance. I do so, but instead of looking at the knob, I now look at the barrel. When you feel like you've got balance, let go. And it's amazing how much easier it is. And I tell the kids, well, what's the point of the story here? What's the objective? What's the point? The point is that the only thing that changed was where my focus lies. My focus, instead of my hands, was the barrel. And that's kind of what I believe in hitting. I do believe that you've got to learn to take the barrel to the ball and understand bat head awareness. And that's a little drill. So if your mind is cluttered with information when you're hitting, my batting average is going to fall below 300. The coach is going to take me out, etc., etc. Then you've got problems. The more options that the hitter has in his mind, the less he's going to react quickly. That's a fact. It's been proven through research. So if I'm more, well, we'll get into that a little bit later. Intellectually, the ultimate batter has to have game smarts. He has to understand, get on, get him over, get him in. If I have a runner on second base and I want to move him over to third, and I'm not a selfish hitter, I need that run, I want to get him to third, then I'm going to look for a pitch not inside. I'm going to look for a pitch that's away and try to go hard the other way to advance the runner. So that's being game smart. Emotionally, I think you have to be calm, confident, and creative. Calm under pressure. You know, that's a skill that's required. Calm under pressure, very, very important. Creative. You know, sometimes we get caught up in a game, and time is always of the essence, always important. So you've got to have the kids think for themselves on their feet. Great performances occur when they're spontaneous, intuitive, instinctive. Be creative in getting and finding your solution. You have to find your solution and success through struggle, much like the cocoon and the butterfly. The cocoon fires get stronger, finally opens the hole in the cocoon, the caterpillar comes out, turns into a beautiful butterfly. If we try to open that hole in the cocoon too soon, prematurely, the caterpillar comes out, the butterfly eventually dies. It's not strong enough. When you want to make a difference with your hitters, they'll come to you when they're not going so well. Then you got them. And I think that's an important concept. Visually, soft, sweeping, scanning eyes. Hard, bug-eyed focus is not going to get it done. It's a soft, sweeping, scanning look to the ball. You've got to be on time. How are you getting to release point from the pitcher? If you get there too soon, it's not ideal. If you get there too late, it's really bad. You've got to get early detection on the baseball. And we're going to talk about that. So visually, it's very, very important. Early reads are very, very important. Hip hop. Yeah, you've got to generate some bat speed. I think ball exit speeds are ultimately how you measure good hitters. The faster I can make that ball come off the bat, the more things I've got going. I understand letting the ball get a little deeper. I understand how to use my body. And so we measure ball exit speed. Bat speed's important, but I can swing the bat very hard and generate some bat speed, but I compromise control and consistency. Never should I compromise control and consistency. So ball exit speed, learn how to do that. It's a feel and feedback, very, very important. I look at it as much like I'm trying to get a race. I'm going from point A to point B on an icy turn, and the objective is to win the race. If I go from point A to point B on an icy road around the bend, if I go too fast, what happens, little man?
Yeah, you'll slide out of the...
See, I love you. You're focused. You know, you're sitting up to here, listen to a 55-year-old guy talking about baseball. You're present. You're here. I love that. So that is correct. If you go too fast, you spin out. If you go too slow, you don't win the race. And that's really what hitting is. I can't tell you just to generate bat speed and compromising control and consistency. So find what is optimal for your athlete, and you constantly test that and you finally work with it. Here's the biggie. Hunts, sits on pitches. I have strong opinions about that. You as coaches, if you call the pitches as I do, you can tell if a team is on it or not. You can tell a bunch of guys that are trying to hit 3-run homers with nobody on. Their best shot is 500-foot foul. And everybody in the stands going, ooh, ah, I'm licking my chops. Because that's setting up the hitter. Every hitter learns to defend the inside pitch. They don't want to get embarrassed. So they defend that inside pitch, making them susceptible to the soft stuff away. You get that big lumberjack, you get that big, strong guy that wants to hit it a country mile, they're relatively easy to pitch to. So hunting pitches, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, huge. Knowing your strike zone, huge. There's a hybrid, meaning that there's 3 types of hitters. Hitters that are reactionary, that try to cover everything, and in my opinion, humble opinion, they're not ready for anything. Then there's a guy that hunts and sits pitches. He looks for he times up the pitch such, he loads up with the timing of his pitch that he's looking for in his location. He gets that, he's going to put a pretty good swing on it with great timing. 90 to 100% of the time, I want to square that pitch up. The only way that's possible if you know or you're timed up for that pitch, in my opinion. Then you've got the hybrid guy that he'll do a little bit of both, whatever's convenient, whatever feels good at that day, that time. I'm strongly suggesting to you to have your hitters come up with a game plan and load up with timing to that speed. It's like this. If you throw BP, where you throw in a batting cage, and you tell your hitter, hey guys, I'm just throwing fastballs right down the middle. Will they hit the ball? Will they be on time? Do they look good? Pretty good. Now you say this, hey guys, I'm going to throw it up and in, down and away, up and in, down and away. Chances are they will not be on time as often. Now you say, I'm not going to tell you if I'm going to throw up and in or down and away. I'm just going to alternate, throw 2 up, 1, whatever. They're not going to be on time. Test it. That's all that I do is test whatever I'm sharing with you. Now you throw in curveballs. Now you throw in changeups. Different locations. Now you throw in some pitches that are waste pitches. All of a sudden, they're not on time anymore. Some hitters don't like to be told what pitch is coming. I've heard that. And I think the reason they feel that way is because if you're wrong one time as a coach, you've lost their trust. And they're going to be embarrassed. So you got to be careful. We play the percentages. We're not always going to be right. But hunting pitches is crucial to putting on a great swing with timing in a great situation. Control the controllables. M-able. M-able. M. What is your mistake response? It's got to be quick. It's okay to strike out. It's okay to KO. Next, learn from it. M. So M is mistake response. A, attitude. You got to have a great attitude. B, behavior. You can control your behavior and your actions and your conduct. L, you can control your learning. And E, you can control your effort. Everything else is really a waste of time. Very good. Next slide, please. Before you start that, this is a, oh, there we go. Can you hold it? It's a video clip of Cabrera, and I love the way he hits. It's a home run hitting contest that I videotaped, and basically, I love his path to the ball. I believe that you go through the shoulder blade and you take your elbow back to the catcher. I think the great hitters don't exceed their elbow above their shoulder. You've got guys like Ryan Howard who go up and behind, and they generate a lot of momentum the other way and power the other way, but they don't get it done when it means the most. And you can pitch to them up and in and some heat and stuff. So I think the great hitters are right about here. And I think of it like skipping a stone over a pond. You know, you don't tell yourself when you're skipping a stone over the pond and making it skip, hey, I got to get my back elbow, I got to get my hands up, I got to get my hands back, and stink and think, and all of a sudden it's not synchronized or natural. You just skipped a stone over the pond. And that's kind of the way we hit, with our lead arm being, pretend like we're throwing a frisbee down the long hallway, or throwing a frisbee off the pitcher's chest. We're not throwing it down, we're not throwing it up, going the other way. We're just, boom. Our focus is gap to gap. So that's kind of the movement. So it's going back. The hands stay in front of the elbow, and you're just going back. Start where you want, but just go back into the situation. And there's a video clip of Cabrera. I'd like you to show it. The first portion is really what's important here. He crushes this ball. Boom. Bam. Good extension out front. He puts it into orbit. If you hear the announcers, they're talking about moving their hands back and so forth, but he absolutely crushes it. Smooth, continuous, controlled, accelerated movement. It's not about step, stop, and swing. Ultimate batters understand effortless power, dynamic balance, posture, stay connected. Don't disconnect back, don't disconnect out, stay connected, get long out front, and then fish hook. Should I hold the bat? Should I hold the hands to the bat? Do I finish with one arm, like many do, or do I hold the bat with two? Anybody have different hitters, different finishes? Okay. Well, the answer from my perspective is simply this: it's a non-teach. It does what it does. It all depends on what your hands do. If you want to hold on to the bat with this top hand, then the only way to do that is to bend this arm here. If I want to swing and I want to get good extension through, I can't continue to hold on. The only way I hold on is if I bend this arm. So that's really that part of it. So whether they finish with one or two, the critical point is that when they strike the ball at impact, the barrel slightly below the hands, palm up, palm down, in a good strong position where this is firm. If I bunt, my angles are bent. I'm absorbing the incoming pitch. In hitting, I don't want to absorb the incoming pitch. I want it to rebound, collision, explode off the bat. So that's a little bit about that. Having routines as the ultimate batter, I think it's important. That could be a whole nother lesson topic. But basically, you've got to determine your routines. When does it start? When does it end? Does it start the night before? Does it start when you come off the bus? Does it start when you're in the locker room? Does it start when you're in the dugout? You've got to have routine that must involve breathing, that must involve visualization, imagining things in action. Critical. When your hitter is going well and they provide you in detail what their routines are, you can observe that as a coach. And all of a sudden in a big game, postseason play, they're not following their routine. You can make comment, you can give them feedback about that. Why are you speeding up your routine? Why are you not doing what you've been doing? Get back to your routine. When things don't go well, when there's a lot of pressure, fall back on your routine. That's a difference maker, a game changer. Batting game plan. You know, what type of pitcher? Is it a power pitcher? Is he a finesse pitcher? Is he a wild pitcher? Is he a curveball pitcher? Does he throw changeup with south pitch? All those things must be done. You do that in the dugout, you do that before the game. But for those hitters that don't do that, that's a sad mistake. A power pitcher, I want to stay off the high stuff. Not being selfish, understanding field conditions, hunting pitches once again. So that's a little bit about that. Next slide, please. How are we doing for time?
We're about at it. Go ahead and finish.
Go at it.
We're behind a little bit.
We're behind. Oh my goodness. Okay. What prevents players from becoming the ultimate batter? Great pitch. Certainly there are distractions. The pitcher's windup is a distraction. If we're worried about this, how the guy's winding up, that's a problem. No, you should be worrying on getting to release point on time. Wide focus, defined focus. How you get there is a thing that you need to explore and be creative and find out what's best. Girls, biggest distraction. I love that picture in the middle. It's difficult to see there, but you got two tigers. One's got his tongue hanging out. He's licking his chop, ready for the prey. Well, that's the way we should hit. That's our approach. Hit like a beast. Bat like a beast. Hunt pitches. That's what Manny Ramirez and the Tigers have in common. Know your strike zone. I do believe that undisciplined hitters and guys that have poor tracking skills, that's what prevents great hitters, and they try to cover everything and not understanding anything. I love this quote. Next slide, please. Great swing with timing. Again, what prevents it? Self-control. Do you remember George Brett? He went off. Was it Billy Martin that said something about the pine tar? And he just simply went off. And so we can't do that. The players can't do that. They can't get too frustrated. The game was designed to take your heart. We all know about that. And so you got to keep your composure. The fear of getting hit. I don't care who you are. Your first thought as a hitter is that baby coming at me? If the answer is no, then I can go to work. If that baby's coming at me, there's a part of me that has to deal with that. So the fear of getting hit is important to deal with. Inefficient swings. What I see as a problem with a lot of hitters is what I see the back elbow going behind. When they go behind, you got to come out, and then when you come out, you fillet the pitch. And so your hitting area is not nearly as long as what I find great hitters to be. So I use the term behind. Don't go behind. Go back, if you'd like. Slice the ear, touch the imaginary halo. Line up your fingers, shoulder height. And then come through the ball, stick through the ball. Back knee to your front calf. Foot at 2 o'clock, front foot closed. Shoelaces, dynamic balance. Stance, posture, like I'm holding grocery bags and my butt's slightly out and trying to nudge the door. I don't want to bend over and jackknife too much. I will not get good rotation in the hips. I love this quote. I don't know who said it, but it really hits the point. Only those who have the patience and discipline to do the simple things correctly will acquire the skills to do the difficult things easily. That really says it all for me. So staying back, swinging down, I think are inappropriate comments to make in terms of how we hit. Next slide, please. It's hard to see here, but we have a pitch line. We have a cord that's 60 feet 6 inches. We hook it up to a fence, or we hook it up to a pitcher. And at the catcher by a fence, so you see this downward angle. And we have these balls, and I don't think you can see, but there's 3 balls. The first 18, 20 feet, and there's a picture here at release, the first 18, 20 feet, the hitter will be able to tell what plane the ball's in, high, low, in, out. At the end here, the 10, 15 foot mark, that's the time it takes the bat to swing. So there's nothing you can do. You don't actually see the bat hit the ball. And then you have your middle, 18, 20 feet. That's where you see spin and speed. So if you don't get good early read at the beginning, you've really got no chance. I wanted to show you something here. This simulates the time I have for a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. That's not much stinking time. I figured it out, tried to figure it out. I think this is crucial. Try this with your players if you already don't. I think we have to match rhythms with the pitcher. For every action that the pitcher takes, I think the hitter should match some action. So as the pitcher takes his drop step, the hitter should shift slightly forward. As the pitcher comes across to gather, to lift, that's when the hitter goes backwards, shifts backwards slightly. And as the pitcher goes forward, the hitter will go forward. If you don't move until the ball is released from a hitting standpoint, I don't care how good your mechanics are, it's too stinking late. And all you're going to have to do is you're going to try and adjust to get the barrel to the ball in any way that you can. And that might mean coming off the ball, which we see as the flaw, but we've got to comprehend the cause. The cause is the timing. So, add toe touch. Figure this out. I figured out, some math professor gave me the solution, or gave me something to think about. Add toe touch. Add toe touch. Throwing an 85-mile-per-hour fastball, you have 7/10 of a second. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's how fast you have to get ready to deliver the barrel to the ball. Keeping in mind, it takes about 75/100ths of a second with normal reaction, and you get this, you blink 25 times a minute. I think it lasts 15/100ths of a second. I'm just sharing that with you because sometimes when you feel the ground ball, the routine ball gets messed up, or you swing right through a pitch. Maybe he blinked at the wrong time. You blink 25 times in 1 minute. Just thought I'd throw that out to you. Okay. I believe start sooner, slower. Start sooner, slower. I don't believe in fast right away. You go fast, you can't adjust. You can't control that body. You're just firing. And if you straighten out that lead leg too prematurely, then you just become a spinner. There's no adjustment. You adjust and get full by staying in your legs. Another day. Does that work, John? We got the backwards. Okay, that's the backwards one. Unfortunately, we start them young, and we start with the pitch line. And so we have a pitcher actually throwing, getting in his windup, and their hitter has to move and reflect some of the actions of the pitcher. We start them young, and you really see a big difference because at the younger levels, they haven't a clue. They react when the ball's long gone. But if you can start teaching them the timing mechanisms that you have to start before that toe touches. You know, some people believe that as the pitcher's stride foot goes down, that's when the hitter's stride foot goes up. So experiment with that, but you got to have that down. We practice and measure everything 85-mile-per-hour fastball. We don't see too many of those guys where we live. We may see an occasional upper 80 guy, maybe touch 90, but not usual. But mostly they're below. But if we feel that if we can handle an 85-mile-per-hour fastball, then we can make the adjustments with the slower speeds. Okay. Next slide, please. Great situation. Isn't that the goal? To play on the biggest stage? Play the best when it means the most? This is a college stadium, the former college stadium. Jim, you know this, for Rosenblatt Stadium, Omaha. Our high school players. Most of them want to go play at the next level. There's the right school for them. Right fit. But eventually we want to play on the big stage, doing the best when it means so. What prevents you from being there? Trying too hard, too much information. The more your mind has information, the more scattered your thinking is, the less clear you are, the more reaction time it's going to take. You don't have quick reactions. So you got to simplify the hitting to the point where you can make good decisions. In our last 8 games, we really hit the ball well, to include the postseason state tournament. And we were not very good hitters at all. And we were weak. We had 2 8th graders, a couple freshmen, like I said, so 3 seniors. So we made a big difference because of our system and our program, you know, what we did. Because they're not any more talented than what you guys see. In fact, they're probably a little less talented. I think it's really important to play instinctive, intuitive, and spontaneous. That's where great performances occur. Okay, next slide, please. I like to evaluate based on those components. Some blind spots, I don't have time to get into all of them. I've touched a little bit on some of them. So I just think that sleep, our kids don't get enough sleep, at least in Delaware. And daily challenges, they have them all the time. They didn't do well on an exam. They had a fight with their girlfriend. They don't drink enough water, particularly the night before. Nutritionally, what do they eat during the game or right before the game? I allow them to have things in the dugout during the contest, good water, fruits, and so forth. If we're going on a road trip, I'll provide the mothers, parents provide good food. So I think that's overlooked sometimes as a blind spot. Charting good outs is also a blind spot. How do you make your outs? Let the ball be the teacher or the coach. This thing will tell you what you're doing wrong. Next. Ultimate VP, I love this. I believe in doing things with your eyes closed, so you enhance the senses. I believe in slow motion swings, so you can feel things. I believe in feeling feedback, staying in front of the mirror. Opposite, exaggerated swings, meaning I want you to uppercut off the ball off the tee. I want you to chop down, exaggerate that chop down, and somewhere in between is the ideal swing. I want you to feel the difference. Don't tell me the difference in the result. Tell me what you feel. When do you feel it? To what degree? When you start probing them with questions like that, they become to internalize, and then you've got a shot. Instead of saying, do this, do that. Awareness mode thinking or teaching versus to-do instruction. Scrimmages, game analysis, the real deal batting chart is great, is important. I do believe that every drill has its inherent strengths and weaknesses. Every drill. If you just love one drill, you're going to be good at that one drill. But does it transfer, and is it repeatable in a game? So be careful not to fall in love with one particular drill. We all do that. Pujols. Anybody know Pujols' ball exit speed? Anybody want to take a guess what his ball exit speed is, what it was a couple of years ago on average? Take a guess. Somebody just call out a number. High school average bat speed, I believe, is 70 miles per hour. There's not too much difference between the ball exit speed, bat speed of high school and professionals. They just do it consistently, where we compromise consistency and control. Anybody take a guess? 109 miles per hour ball exit speed. I think the fastest was 121. He had 119 that year. Mickey Mantle, who hit the farthest ball, they estimated that his bat speed was ball exit speed was 132. 132. Tiger Woods and the golfers are up in there in that range. This guy here, which I'm about to show you, is at the time was a sophomore that I've been working with, and he got it up to 93. So just take a quick. It's a nice. We have a radar in the back. I don't know if you can see that, but it's 91. Sometimes it misreads. That was definitely not a 66. But if it misreads or if it misses the net, it doesn't read. Well, that's good. You got to hit it on the screws. The closer you hit it to that radar, line drive, 93, the better. So how do you make this more game-like? You have a pitcher stand behind the screen and get into the windup. When you do tee work, people just focus on hitting down and keeping their head down. That's not reality. You got to look at the pitcher. You got to time the pitcher, and then your eyes should be somewhere out there. Your eyes are going to be in front of, behind the ball. So let's practice as closely as we can. So that's something that we do. As far as drill work, I know I'm running out of time. This ball, I don't get anything for it. I love it. I absolutely love it. I call it the power ball. I used to use 16-inch softballs and hit the ball off of a tee. You didn't need your gloves. Kids loved it. It's motivational, manageable, meaningful, all that stuff. But this, it's called total control ball. Anybody ever use this or see this? It's a soft ball. It weighs 16 ounces. I absolutely love it. I stick it on a tee, and I'm collecting data now to see if there's a pattern or a relationship between good hitters and hitters that need to improve. I put the ball on the tee, and I've measured out 50 feet. How many of them can drive the ball 50 feet into the back net into a target? So I'm starting to get some documentation, and I will share that with you when I get enough. But this ball, if you mishit it, I don't know if you can see the dimple in the ball, but if you mishit this ball, it turns out to be like an egg. It's a 16-inch ball. I've thrown a lot of BP with this, and quite frankly, I feel wonderful. You know, that overload, underload principle. I'm not throwing it with full speed, but I'm throwing it at a short distance, simulating an 85-mile-per-hour fastball. You might want to try this. I also have a drill, a lot of drills, which unfortunately I don't have time, but I'd be more than happy to discuss the drills. I'm just going to share with you a couple drills that I think are important. We have a drill where we square up to the pitcher, and we turn the shoulder, and we hit. We eliminate the lower half and just work on quickness. That ball coming in with some force at 16 ounces, if you don't hit it properly and you're not strong and you don't use your entire body, you're going to feel it. If you're a premature rollover kind of guy, you're going to feel it. And so it's instant feedback for you. So we also have where we turn this way and we look at the pitcher there. and it gets us to hit over and use our hips properly. We have a drill called do or die. Again, it depends on the type of hitter. We don't fall in love. Every drill has its inherent strengths and weakness, but we throw the ball right at them. When you first do this, they panic and they don't know what to do with it. So you throw the ball at them, and they must hit it out here. So they're going to hit it into the side panel with balance. Boom. That's a nice drill that seems to be effective. I also get about 15, 18 feet away, and I try to throw that baby pretty hard, simulating an 85-mile-per-hour fastball with added force. So I get them into post-stride position. They're not going to stride. I want to see how quickly they can hit. I just want to see how quickly they can get it going. So they're here, and I try to hit everything up the middle, and I want them to drive it, hit it hard and far. It's amazing how quickly you can see improvement. And then when they hit the regular baseball, the ball literally jumps off their bat. The real deal batting chart. Let's go to the next slide. Is this another? Was that the other slide? Don't do this. Don't do this one. This is the same thing I was just talking about. 50 feet away is that target, and this kid hit like 6 out of 10. And he's a decent, okay hitter. He's very strong, very athletic. If I clicked on that, it would turn upside down. So we'll bypass that. When you videotape, if you do, make sure that you try and hit. If the ball's coming in this way and you strike the ball, 20 degrees a line drive. 30 degree is being able to hit the ball hard and far with some trajectory. Drills and skills. This is right before I left to come here to Kentucky. It was cold outside, and I love this. This is what I was talking about. It's an A-frame. It's made out of wood. This is lucite. It's like plexiglass. I absolutely love it. I stand or I sit behind it and I throw, or I have somebody throw behind an L screen. I'm sitting in front of it, in front of the hitter. So where that projector is, I'm sitting behind it with that thing in front of me. So when the hitter's hitting BP from a pitcher that's 60 feet or wherever he's from, I can see the exact movements of my hitters, what they do first. It's amazing, the footage you can get. And I just wanted to show you, does this video work? I just I just self-toss and rip it into that lucite just to prove the point that it doesn't break. And you use it for video. I use it for my pitchers to sit behind. I'm tired of videoing or looking behind a net. I'm whacked out. I just don't like that look. So it's a piece of glass lucite that I got from a hockey rink. It's wonderful. Next slide, please. I evaluate my pitchers. I can't do it today, but I have video where I have software that I can slow it down. And you can see the different spins on the baseball. And you can see the different timings, how, when's the hitter's getting started in relation to release point. Wonderful teaching tool that you sit down with your hitter and make a lot of great strides. And then in BP, you work on it. So let's just go through a couple of seconds here just to get the point. So I'm right now sitting right behind this piece of glass. You can see curveball action from the pitcher. You can see movement. You can see pace. You can see location. It's really nice. This happens to be my son, who's okay hitter right now. He's got some timing issues, but he's got a little bit of movement. And the pitcher there, you can look at his mechanics. Is he on line? Is he landing on a soft front side flat? There's a changeup. It's just a wonderful teaching tool. It's the when and where of hitting. One more. I'm going to shut this guy down. Okay, thanks. Next slide. Having worked with hitters, you know the difference between cage work hitters and real game hitters. They look so good doing tee work. Front flips. I don't like side flips. I find that they turn and they wrap. I like front flips. But when you do that type of work, they're really good hitters. But when you put them in a game, all of a sudden things change. Here's the ultimate BP that I have, and I write down the players. Now this is a formula that you might want to use. Let's say I pitch. I can't throw like I used to. So to simulate an 85-mile-per-hour fastball, I got to determine what distance I throw from to simulate the reaction time. So the formula is very simple. Find out what your coach throws. You got to radar him. You got to find that out. Let's say it's 60 miles per hour. Well, you multiply that 60 miles per hour by 55. Why 55? Because 60 feet 6 inches at release, you've covered about 5 feet. So then that gives you a number. That number is 3,300. You divide that number by 85 miles per hour because that's what you're training, because that's the opponent. Now, if you know opponent's throwing 90 miles per hour, then that day, those few days that you have to prepare, put in 90 miles per hour and divide by 90, and that gives you the distance, 38 feet. So at 38 feet, 8 inches, that's the distance that we mark off. We throw off of a mountain to get that slope, to make it game-like. And that's how we prepare our hitters. So they go through 3 rounds. The first round is hit hard ground balls. We evaluate that. If you don't hit a hard ground ball, you don't get a bonus swing. The next round is hard ground ball up the middle. The next round is home run. Yes, we do try to get our kids to hit a home run, but it's monitored, it's supervised. It's not just a back, and just let it rip. No, it's controlled, but try to hit with power. Understand letting the ball get deep and so on. Number 4 is hitting a home run oppo. Not everybody can hit a home run. We didn't have guys hitting balls over fences. But if I could tell that they drove the ball and it was a good swing, I gave them a bonus swing for that. So home run oppo is really good one. Then it gets increasingly difficult. Round 5 is line drive. Round 6 is line drive up the middle. And round 7, we give them a situation. Runners on third base. Infield is playing in. Let's look for a pitch up and drive it. So based on 3 swings, or 1 swing, or 2 swings, 1 to 3 swings, that's how many swings you get. You bring in a pair, and that's how many hits they get. You get bonus. So let's say you have 7 times 3 is 21 swings that you start with. If you don't execute, you deduct from 21, and that's how many bonus swings you get. The bonus swings, you're on your own. You can subtract if the players foul one off or swing and miss. If they foul the pitch, take one away. You got to make it difficult. I think we make batting practice too easy. And they all look good. Anybody can hit a fastball that they know what's coming. Start mixing up. Make the practices more difficult so that the game becomes easier. Then you have a live pitcher throwing curveballs, changeups, whatever. We record all this stuff. And that's our BP, and we throw off the mound. Next slide. So what does the ultimate batter look like? There you go. All the technical stuff that we've talked about, I think, is important. This is what next slide. This is what I tell the kids. If you lick the lollipop of mediocrity, you will suck forever. I usually get a little kick out of that. Kids like that. And I just wanted to thank you for allowing me to share some of my thoughts, and certainly John for having me, and also Jim for letting Kentucky and Jim know, or letting John know about me. I would like to leave you with one thing here. It might be something that might be helpful for you, or perhaps it might be helpful in exchanging this with your parents. You can turn the slide. Imagine if you could inspire your son to play free and easy with unbelievable results. I want to share something with you. It's a scenario. It's making a point. It's a mother was making breakfast and fried eggs for her teenage son, and suddenly the son bursts into the kitchen. So it goes like this. Careful, careful. Put in some more butter. Oh my goodness, you're cooking too many at once. Too many. Turn them down. We need more butter. The temperature's too hot. Turn it down. Oh my. Where are we going to get more butter? They're going to stick. Careful, careful. I said be careful. You never listen to me when you're cooking. Never. Turn them. Hurry up. Are you crazy? Have you lost your mind? Don't forget to salt them. You always forget to salt them. Use the salt. Please use the salt. The mother stared at him. What's wrong with you? You think I don't know how to fry a couple of eggs? The son calmly replied, I just want to show you what it feels like when I'm trying to hit. Now, we all get frustrated. I'm not suggesting that you do this, but this is a good little story that you might want to share with your parents, because you hear it all the time. Get your back elbow up. You know, the chicken farm story. If you go to a chicken farm, there's an open wound of a chicken. The other chicken attacks it, peck, 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 until the open wound either heals itself quickly or the chicken dies. We as coaches have a tendency to be big league peckers. We peck, 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 parents, coaches. Peck, 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 peck. Well, when you rob them of their emotional energy, I don't care how good you are or what you say, they won't be listening. Their emotional tank is low. And when that happens, they're not going to be very resilient. Thank you so much for having me, and it was great being here. Thank you.